come to satsang. Most of you are familiar with the format. This is an opportunity to be together and explore whatever questions you may have that may help in clarifying your understanding from the non-dual perspective, and also to go into whatever questions that may have arose in your life over the last week or recently that are getting your attention and that you would like to explore together. So just a couple of words about satsang, just a refresher, a reminder that in this meeting, referred to as satsang, it is a meeting of one. It is not a meeting between two different people. In this meeting, we come together in the openness of presence. And when we come to the openness of presence, the personal sense of separation dissolves in this openness. Like when you are cold and you sit around a fire, the cold dissolves in the heat of the fire. Make sure that your mics are muted so that we avoid any echo, any background sounds, and if you have any questions, then you can reactivate your mic. And in satsang, whatever questions are being posed or explored are everybody's questions, although maybe one particular mind is expressing a question or expressing an observation or a comment. It pertains to all of us as this one consciousness. So non-duality basically expresses and points to the one and only reality, the non-dual reality of consciousness, the non-dual reality of presence, of beingness. From the non-dual perspective, all is one. All is the self. There is no separation. There is nothing that is coming at you that you need to attain or that you need to achieve or that you need to avoid or that you need to watch from the absolute perspective. Of course, at the body-mind level, it's different. Meaning, at the body-mind level, when it's cold, you put on a sweater or a jacket. When you're hungry, you cook a meal and you feed the body. You, as consciousness, are the manager of the body-mind. You are the caretaker of the body-mind, and you're quite aware as intelligence that the body-mind is a passing event, that the body-mind arises and dissolves in you, the aware presence, the open aware presence that is not made out of anything, that is not a phenomenal event, that is not affected by the weather, the external weather or the internal weather. So from the non-dual perspective, you come to know yourself as the reality of consciousness, the one reality that perceives through all minds, that perceives all perceptions. In this knowingness, all the angst and all the unhappiness that you experience as a person dissolve in that knowingness. The impression that something is happening to me dissolves in that knowingness. The impression that I am immortal, that I am some form, some limited form that exists in time and space, that impression dissolves in your knowingness. The impression that happiness is out there in an experience, in a situation, or in a relationship dissolves in your knowingness. The mind becomes tranquil, at peace, bright and clear. As all sense of limitation dissolves, there is nothing in the way. The body loses its sense of borders, ceases to be constrained and contained and limited, and becomes an expanded body, the body of the universe, a transparent body that has no center and an infinite radius. The world becomes a joyful, celebratory, and contemplative field that is full of marvel and wonder. The heart becomes tender, open, soaked through and through in love. A love that expects nothing, that does not place conditions onto oneself or onto others. So this is the heart of the non-dual teaching. It's an experiential shift from experiencing oneself as a limited person with personal problems and personal troubles and personal issues that haunt us during the day and haunt us during the night in our dreams, is a shift from living in that concerned space to an open space of beauty and love and peace and tenderness. So the heart opens and embraces whatever is unfolding, freshly, moment by moment, being fresh like a newborn, not dragging any corpses, letting things go, because it's a natural order. The natural order is for the phenomenal events to arise and dissolve. So we recognize that principle, the principle of impermanence, which belongs to the dream world, to the manifest world. We recognize that. And in that recognition, we relax. We become more porous, more transparent, more open. Like the wide open sky is not affected by the presence or absence of clouds. Consciousness is healing. It's the healer. It is the absolute healer. It completely dissolves all angsts, all personal issues. And by consciousness, I mean this open presence right now that truly perceives this perception, the reality of this perception, whatever it is that is real, that truly hears these words. So rather than holding on to your stories and your issues, rather than trying to find a solution in the mind via various means, worldly means and strategies, you can come to your stillness, come to the inherent stillness of the self, the inherent stillness, your inherent absence. Come to your inherent absence. In this absence, all impressions dissolve and come to rest, come to peace. You are this open space, a non-phenomenal presence, non-phenomenal absence as presence. It has no borders, no weight, no gender, formless presence. It's borderless. It's complete freedom. Do not be so concerned about mind events, life events. Do not cater so much for them. They want to draw you in their stories. There is a lie. There is a lie out there. A big lie. And the big lie is that you're a man or a woman. That you are some mortal form. That you are a limited consciousness, a personal consciousness. A consciousness that has borders, that has limits, that has a skin. It's a big lie. You need to investigate that. To come to the clarity, to come to the truth, to come to the reality. That the consciousness that you are is borderless, has no skin, has no gender, has no borders. How can it be personal if it is borderless? Relax in your understanding. Come to your understanding and relax in your understanding. Rather than struggling with your daily mental affairs, which are endless. Let them go. Nothing touches you. Nothing touches the unformed, the unborn, the unmanifest. Your awakening is inevitable. You cannot get around it. You can delay it and postpone it with your personal interests in your personal life. But it's just a matter of time that you will have no choice but to turn to God, to turn to truth. You will have no choice but to turn your attention and contemplate the real. There is no need to postpone it, no need to delay it. Ananda, you write, the natural order is to arise and dissolve. Consciousness is not under the dictates of nature, yet nature is so beautiful. Is Maya a big lie or a magnificent beauty? The natural order is for phenomena to arise and dissolve, for mind impressions to arise and dissolve. Consciousness does not. It is not under any dictates. Nature is under the dictates of consciousness. Everything is under the dictates of consciousness. But consciousness is under no dictates. Only the phenomenal impressions are under dictates. The non-phenomenal, meaning the noumenal consciousness, is under no dictates. It does not obey any rules as it is the ruler. What obeys the rules is limited, conditioned, and phenomenal, meaning it exists in relationships to other mechanisms. So there are rules that connect and control and that guide these mechanistic systems. But consciousness is not in that realm, in the phenomenal realm. It is the formless. And given that it is the formless, there is nothing that conditions it or that dictates it or that guides it or that influences it, or so it is complete freedom. It is freedom. So when we talk about consciousness, we are talking about whatever it is that is real, meaning that is real right now. So we're not talking some esoteric conceptual principles. We're talking about the reality that perceives this perception. So yes, there is great beauty in the world of form and manifestation, but this beauty is only possible from the perspective of the beautiful. It is not possible from the perspective of the limited. So in ignorance, we experience beauty whenever we forget our limitation. When we stand in front of a beautiful sunset, we completely dissolve as a person, as a me. When we are embracing our lover, we totally forget the me as a body and the other as a body. We dissolve in the love. These are the moments that we experience beauty from the me perspective, is when the me perspective dissolves. So it's always the experience of beauty and love and honesty and sincerity and intelligence is always experienced at the consciousness level. It is never experienced at the personal level. It is a story that goes on afterwards that says, oh, me, this man, this woman, this person, oh, I had a great sex, I had a great meal, I had a great experience, I had a great trip, etc. But in fact, what was great about your experience was your absence. So yes, the marveling at the beauty of Maya, of the manifest, and the magnificence of it is fantastic, but only from the perspective of presence. Because as presence, you are the source. And the source is universal. And the universality of the source has no opposite. It's a free flowing. It flows as everything. And it does not flow. It's complete freedom. It is the rain, it is the streams, it is the waterfalls, it is the iceberg, it is the oceans, it is the clouds, it is everything. Unopposed, unopposed. So what matters is for you to come to the understanding that the beauty that you experience and the love that you experience is when you are absent, not present. When you are being completely, truly yourself, when you are being truly, totally yourself, you're not trying to portray an image, you're not trying to impress anybody, you're not trying to be a wise guy or to show off. When you're being truly, truly, truly yourself, absolutely yourself, there is no other. You're in complete harmony, complete intimacy with yourself. And in this intimacy of yourself with yourself, there is no mental projection. There is a dissolution of all projections, all mentations into presence, into the self. There's only one self. The self that we all are is this one self. So it's really important that you realize that that's where the beauty lies, in the complete abandonment of this habitual me, to trust that that is not where your happiness lies, and to be willing to explore being that aware presence, that love, not this concern about, oh, my gray hair, my belly, my chin, my how do I look, how do I sound, how do I seem, did I impress them? None of that. Really, truly to come to your sincerity with yourself. That I truly want to just be purely myself, purely myself. Because myself is the self. I'm purely myself. I'm not thinking about how am I going to appear to you, how am I going to sound, how, That's when you're taking steps towards the beauty and the love and the magnificence of the creative magnificence of consciousness. When you're not chasing, it all comes to you. When you're not chasing, they come to you. They come to you and then they come through you. Because you don't hold on. You embrace. As you're being embraced, you embrace. As it flows, you're always open-armed and open-hearted. And that's where you really touch the heart. Where you touch the heart in your complete openness. And there is no better marvel than to touch the heart.
You take it right to a deeper level where my sort of follow-up question is maybe not even much of use, which is about the ideas such as Maya. I mean, ideas which are so common and rampant and still fill the mind to a fair amount. God, Maya, whatever.
Which
Maya,
idea?
well, like idea of Maya, for example. Ideas I really, you took me to a deeper place, and so that question is really kind of silly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But so much mental activity
Mm-hmm.
based on concepts and knowing something,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
it's the spiritual ideas that there's Maya, and that's really
Mm-hmm.
trying to extend the divinity of consciousness into the relative
Mm-hmm.
sphere is what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All of your questions get answered
Mm-hmm.
from you to you
Mm-hmm.
when you contemplate, what am I truly?
Mm. Mm.
And in your contemplation, what am I truly?
Mm-hmm.
You postpone or you put on hold, you pause all your ideas and your beliefs about
Mm-hmm.
me, others, the world.
Mm-hmm.
And you go to your not knowing, your not knowingness.
Mm-hmm.
And your not knowingness is an openness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And in this openness, there is no distance. And everything comes to this openness. Everything comes to rest in this openness and is revealed to be the openness itself. And all impressions of forms and worlds come to your understanding and dissolve in your understanding,
Mm-hmm.
so that
Mm-hmm.
what remains is your absence.
Dreams, grand or small.
Yes.
Thank you.
So let the principles, the worldly principles, the universal principles take care of themselves. Don't be so concerned about your understanding, about your blood flow and your the oxygenation of your body and the gravitational field in the world, body, mind, in the space, in the cosmic world. Of course, it is interesting and amusing from a certain perspective, but for the understanding, for the realization of the self, all of that is superfluous.
Mm. Mm. I get a sense of the meaning of purity. Purity is one concept I had thrown away, but now I'm getting the sense of it here
Yes.
in a meaningful sense.
Yes. You throw away the concept of purity, and in a way you let go of everything, meaning you release everything.
Mm-hmm.
There are no holding hands.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come to the real purity of presence, the obstacle-free presence,
Mm-hmm.
complete freedom of presence, which is the peace that has no concerns. And just stay with that, stay as that. Just stay as that. Over and over, just come to that and stay as that. No other uh, no other tasks. Yeah. Okay. Hello, Isaac. If thoughts are brain outputs, what is the nature of the input? So let's say that the brain is an instrument, Isaac. Through this instrument, there are certain electrical fields and magnetic fields and vibrational fields that create phenomenal impressions, perceptions, dreams, and shapes, all of which are phenomenal, meaning as you poke one part of the brain with a certain electrical charge, you'll have a certain phenomenal experience, and if you poke a different part of the brain or in a different way. So in a way, through the body-mind organism, the brain is stimulated through the senses, stimulated through the weather, stimulated through the gravitational field and changes in the gravitational field, very subtle changes. At night, it's a different energetic manifestation in the space. So the brain is experiencing a different input, different stimulation. And thoughts and dreams and images arise. And the question is, what is the input? What is the nature of the input? So in your question, there is one assumption, there is an assumption in your question. The assumption is that there is a brain and there is an input to the brain and an output to the brain. And that this input and the output are somehow separate. Maybe I am reading an assumption in your question that you are not actually meaning. But let me continue with my train of thought.
Okay.
So if there is that assumption that there is an input and there is an output, and that I know the output such as thoughts, but I don't know the input, then there is an impression that there is some separation between the input and the output. So if the input and the output are separate, and the brain is the medium between them, when the input strikes the brain, and then the brain, there is an output that gets triggered out of the brain, at that moment, there is an interconnection between the input, the brain, and the output. There has to be an interconnection. Because if they were not touching or connecting, then they would be totally separate realities. And we could not make any commentary that ties the input to the output.
Yeah.
But since we are talking about a connection between the input and the output, we know the output as being thoughts.
Yeah.
The question is, what is the input? Then there is an interconnection. At a certain moment, there is an interconnection. And when there is an interconnection, then both the input, the brain, and the output are part of a whole. They are part of a whole. They are no longer separate. They cannot be talked about as separate events or separate elements.
Mm-hmm.
A good example of that, for example, is in your body. So you have your right arm and your left arm and your torso, you see. So you could, in a way, look at maybe part of your body being an input through a different part of your body and another part of your body acting as an output. But in fact, it's one whole. Yes, it's one. There is, for there to be an interconnection between the input and the output, there has to be some kind of oneness, some kind of wholeness, something that ties them together. So we cannot speak of an input, an output, and a brain in a separate language. We have to speak about all of them as one. So whatever triggers the brain and the output of the brain are one movement.
Mm-hmm.
So that's somehow a little bit theoretical.
Yeah.
Let's go to the actuality of thought, because thought is an experience that we have.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
Thought arises and appears to me, to I.
Mm-hmm.
I perceive a thought. So there is not just a thought that supposedly is an output of the brain, but there is also a knowingness of the thought, a perception of the thought. Because if the brain produces thoughts and there is nothing that perceives those thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
might as well would be talking about pink flying elephants.
Yeah. Mm.
Yes?
Yes.
So the primordial element or reality, the primordial truth to thought is the knowingness of the thought.
Mm-hmm.
A thought is only possible, we only talk of a thought through our knowingness of it.
Yeah.
And we talk of the brain through our knowingness of the brain. We know the brain as thoughts. We think of the brain, right? For example, right now you can close your eyes and you can imagine a brain. Like you've seen a picture of a brain, or you were in a lab. Maybe when you were younger, you saw some brain. So you can experience a brain as an image.
Yeah, I see like a factory, like a thoughts factory.
Okay, well that's okay. That's a concept.
You have an input, you have a process, and you have an output.
Yeah. Okay. So okay. Well. Okay. Wait. I mean, I was just talking about like we know the brain as we have some image of the brain.
Yeah.
But to say that the brain is a thought factory, there has been no evidence yet that has proven that it is the brain that produces a thought.
Mm.
There has not there has not been any experiment that's proven that, oh well, yeah, thoughts arise from the brain.
Mm-hmm.
There has been experiments that basically show that as you stimulate the brain, the thoughts that arise change. But this does not mean that the brain is a thought factory. We don't know that. We know that the brain can be affected, can be influenced, and be stimulated in ways that will alter the mind experiences, the thought experiences. But we do not know that the actual factory of thought is the brain. We have not found yet where thoughts arise. In the brain. But we know from our experience that thoughts arise in awareness. In other words, right now, if you look at the thought that I love my mother, where is that thought arising?
Awareness.
In awareness. And you can ask yourself, where did it arise from? We don't know. Maybe it arose from nothing.
Yeah.
I cannot say that it arose from the brain, or it arose from a banana, or it arose from the oak tree. I cannot say that. So I'd say, well, I don't know. I don't know where it arose from. But I know where it arose, and I know what knows it. It arises in consciousness, and consciousness knows it. But the key thing that in talking to your question is to understand that awareness is the primordial reality of thoughts. Thoughts are known via consciousness. It is consciousness that knows thought, and it is via consciousness that a thought is experienced. There isn't a thought out there. There is no experience that we have of a thought out there that is without consciousness. Think of a thought without consciousness. Can you?
No.
Okay. Any thought that you think of, any thought, there has to be consciousness. So therefore, if there is no thought anywhere that exists without consciousness, then thought must be made out of consciousness. So the input of thought is consciousness. The substance of thought is consciousness, and the output, which is thought, is consciousness. It is consciousness through and through. It's all consciousness. There's no possibility of talking about thought without consciousness.
Magdi?
That applies as well to all phenomenal experiences, bodily sensations, perceptions. Yes, Maria?
Thank you.
Hi.
You're welcome, Isaac. Hello, Maria.
Hi.
¿Cómo estás?
Bien, bien. I have a question that is related to this.
Yes.
You sometimes, like, I see thoughts like passing, but sometimes I just go with them and I like forget about everything and I just hold on to the thoughts. How is it that happens? I mean, what is the difference between these thoughts that we see passing and these periods in which we just like go with them?
Well, the best answer, Maria, is for you to look for yourself, to experiment, to look for yourself. But I'm going to give you a couple of hints. For example, the thought, today is Thursday. Yes, that's a thought. It passes, no problem. But the thought, I am going to, I'm losing my hair, or I'm going to lose my money, or I'm going to lose my car. Somebody's stealing my car, or I am, my God, I'm losing my memory.
Mm-hmm.
These thoughts is different from today is Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
It's very different. The difference is that there is a me. There is a me, me, Maria, me, Megdi, my car, my house, my sister, my brother, my mother, my grandfather, my job, my retirement, my house, the weather, it's how it's going to affect me, my health, my weight, my vision, etc. Whenever there is a me and a me in the thought, that's a very particular thought. I refer to it as the I thought, the me thought. Whenever there is a me thought, there is an impression at the body level that I am a limited person. Because when I am awareness, it's very relaxed and happy and beautiful and loving and peaceful. It's very sweet. But when I am this person with their money and their house, there is a contraction that is felt in the body. And that contraction is unhappy. The body loves to relax, loves to play, loves out of fun, it loves to run sometimes it loves to climb the mountain, but it's out of fun, out of celebration. It doesn't like to feel unhappy. Doesn't like to feel like a psychological weight, in the chest, in the neck, in the face, in the eyes, this contraction. It doesn't like that. And because it doesn't like that, it's looking for a way out. So thought spins faster to try to save you from that unhappiness. And because we don't have the contemplation, we think that, okay, we need to find a solution. Something is going wrong. I'm not happy. I need to find a solution. So, okay, I need to maybe eat some ice cream. I need to go shopping. I need to call my mother. I need to blame my neighbor, etc. You see, but all these actions, because they're not coming from contemplation, they're coming from ignorance. They dig the hole deeper. They make the sense of me more thicker walls. It becomes even more and more oppressive. And so we try even more until we get exhausted. We say, forget it, I can't deal with it. I surrender it to God. So I think it's a good idea right from the beginning, surrender it to God. Instead of waiting, right from the beginning, say, okay, I am feeling, this miserable and so on. I give it to God. Okay, my misery, I give it to God. I can feel it. I can sense this contraction. No big deal. Why no big deal? Because you know that first of all bodily impressions, all bodily sensations, they pass.
But the thing is that sometimes I don't realize that I'm thinking until a little while later.
True. You don't realize it's true. When you don't realize, you don't realize. What can you do? But it's really important that you take this seriously.
Mm-hmm.
that these thoughts that maintain the me the woman, me the failure, me losing my money, whatever, you know, these thoughts that maintain the me, this is the core of unhappiness, the core of misery. We cannot take that lightly. We have to really take it at heart. And to change our habits, change the way we live habitually, to slow things down and take our time to explore what's going on in this body mind. What am I? What is this going to go on and on and on and on? Is there can there be an ending to this? And yes, there can. Yes, there can, but you need to help it along. I know that these string of thoughts, when they come, you know, you're not even aware of them, but you have to develop those skills, you know, the hunter skills. You're studying yourself. You're exploring and contemplating the self, meaning yourself. That's the highest contemplation. It's the highest contemplation. It requires your love. It requires your love. That you really want to come to the truth. You want to live the truth. Not just continue what you've inherited, you know, the beliefs about you and your life. And you want to really come to the truth, your own truth. Your own truth is in your hands. It's your task. It's your task. And when you take that at heart, you would be surprised how much help comes to you and how much light comes to you and how things can shift. So be open to the possibility that things can shift through your love of truth. So the me belief that that consciousness is limited to a body mind. There's no foundation. You have to explore that. Is there any evidence of that? Is the consciousness right now that hears these words, is there any limit to this consciousness? Is this consciousness female consciousness, a male consciousness, a 50-year-old consciousness, 40-year-old consciousness? In your experience, explore your experience of what is the reality, what is it that is real in your experience. This moment is always this moment. It's always this moment, so that your love for this exploration grows. And when your love grows, then these me thoughts, their echo, their sound becomes weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker until you cannot hear them anymore. And then you find yourself just in the presence. So continue your inquiry, continue your exploration, continue your contemplation. The thoughts that grab you are the me thoughts, the I thought, the me the woman, me the mother, me this, me something. Consciousness as a me. So go always to your experience. When that happens, pause and say, wait a minute, is this true? Is this true? Am I a woman? Or am I this aware, open presence that is perceiving a woman's body, a woman's face, etc. Yes, this aware presence, that this borderless intelligence that's perceiving a woman's body. The body appears in you as awareness. This perception right now, this perception is appearing in you. You are this awareness. The awareness has no borders. The screen has a border. My hand has a border. But awareness has no border.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Seeker thought, hello. You write, if I recall correctly, Byron Katie used the phrase, when consciousness is attached to a body, and when it is not after death, and when it is not after death. Does this make any sense? I'm not sure what Byron Katie was pointing at or to, but I can make my comments, but I'm not commenting about Byron Katie or her teaching. I'm just making a parallel comment about consciousness and body, but not about Byron Katie's teaching. So, consciousness attached to a body, let me just clarify, in what I refer to as ignorance, meaning being ignorant of truth, being ignorant of what I truly am. In ignorance, the belief is that I, this borderless aware presence, I, this consciousness, is contained, is limited to a body-mind. It's sort of inside the body or inside the brain, or is inside, is inside a form. That is ignorance, meaning being ignorant of the self, of truth. So consciousness attached to a body, maybe what the term attached to it, maybe it refers to that the belief that consciousness is a personal consciousness. In fact, in your experience, and you need to look, because we're looking right now, we're having an experience right now. There is a reality to now, which is the reality of consciousness. If you contemplate consciousness that hears these words right now, what truly hears these words, not the man, not the woman, not the 50-year-old, the male, or none of that. Just there is a hearing, a perception that is arising in awareness. If you contemplate this awareness, you will find that it's not contained. Now, if you look at a body, you turn your attention to a body, well, before we turn our attention to the body, if you turn your attention to a glass, okay, you will find that this glass is limited. It's limited. It has a form, it has a shape, and it's appearing in awareness. Now, the fact that this glass appears in awareness does not mean that awareness is limited to the glass. It just means that the glass is limited. The water and the glass are limited to the water is contained in the glass. But the awareness is not contained, is not limited. Now, if you turn your attention to the body, the way we experience the body is through bodily sensations. belly, the legs, the general feeling of the body, sense of the body. It's a sensation. If you turn your attention to a sensation, any sensation, like if you rub your hands together now, or the sensation of your feet on the floor, that sensation arises in awareness. It has a form, sort of different than the form of the glass. It has some sort of amorphous form. It arises in awareness. But this does not mean that awareness is limited to the sensation or is contained inside the sensation. It might be more appropriate to say that the sensation is contained in awareness. But it would be incorrect to say that awareness is contained inside the sensation. That is not our experience. So, when it is not after death, now, death, we can only talk about death from our experience. Because if we're just talking about death not from our experience, it's like we're talking about pink flying elephants. We can talk about pink flying elephants, landing on the head of a needle. It means nothing. We can only talk about death from our experience. So what is our experience of death? You could say, well, I don't know. I have never died. I have not died yet. Meaning, what you are saying is that this body, have not died yet. Meaning you're saying, I am this body, and this body is not dead yet, so therefore I have not died. But what makes you say you are this body? This body arises in you as a bodily sensation or as a perception. It's the hand. You can look at your hand. This perception is arising in awareness. Yes? Awareness is not contained in the hand. The hand is appearing in awareness. So what makes you say with such certainty that you are a body? That's not your experience. Your experience is that you are awareness. You don't believe me. You have to look for yourself. I'm just sharing with you some thoughts. So there is no evidence that you are this body. All the evidence is that this body is appearing to me, and it disappears in deep sleep. It completely disappears in deep sleep. Meaning it disappears to me. Maybe it appears to my mother who's looking at me sleeping, but I'm not my mother. I'm this awareness. So the body appears and disappears. Now, what you also know in your experience is that all phenomenal events appear and disappear. For example, breakfast this morning. You had breakfast this morning, but where is it? Where is the cereal you ate this morning? Where is the cup of coffee or tea you had this morning? Where is that experience? It's gone. So in a way, from moment to moment, there is birth and death. This very perception is arising and changing. As soon as it arises, it dies. So birth and death are instantaneous. In our experience at the phenomenal level, whatever we perceive rises and dissolves. It's like a spark, and it keeps changing. You see, the impression we have of continuity. Have you ever watched a movie? In the old days, they used to have the movie on frames, and they would turn the wheel. They would turn the movie at a certain speed. And so the horse, you see a horse running, but in fact, there is no horse running. There's just a bunch of frames that are moving at a certain speed, and because they're moving at a certain speed, the impression is that the horse is running, is that there is a running horse. In a way, it's the same way. This impression of continuity is the images spinning at a certain speed. Because continuity does not belong to the world body-mind. The world body-mind is constantly in a state of flux. If you look at the molecules and the photons and the gluons, and they're constantly in a state of flux. We haven't yet found one piece of matter in the entire universe. So the continuity does not belong to the world body-mind impression. The only continuity that you know in your own experience is the I. Meaning I as awareness, not me, the man, the woman, the 10-year-old boy, the 12-year-old boy, the 13-year-old boy, not that. I as awareness, I as presence, I, whatever it is that right now is hearing these words, is that same reality that was having breakfast this morning. That reality does not age. The body ages. The tree ages. But consciousness does not age. So we know death at the body-mind level. We experience death all the time. But we think we don't know death because we're identified with the body. We think that I am this body, and therefore I will only know death when the body dies, because of the identification with the body. But once this identification with the body is ended, it will be a very different understanding. Because you will be experiencing the eternity of the self. That does not born, that is unborn, and does not die. Contemplate the reality and not the impermanent. What you are does not die. Bodies die, but you don't. Consciousness does not die. So if you have any questions.
Oh, Magdi, it's
Yes.
Ananda again.
Listen, Ananda.
Sometimes I have this feeling, I have it right now, this all seems so clear, then the thought kind of comes, well, I guess I'll just go on with my life then. Something along those lines.
You have no life. You have no life. You are life. What is it that would go on with his life? What are you pointing at? What is this I that you're pointing to that goes on with his life?
I think it's just the general storyline, the social life, the work, the everything. Which
well, there is a universal dance that's going on. If you refer to universal dance as your life, you're making a mistake, because you're referring to one dance, one mind as being your life, while in fact all minds are your life. And in fact, you are life. So examine this. What is your assumption when you say I, my? I go on with the I. When I will go on with my life, what is this I that you're referring to in this my life? There is still an I. There is still an impression of someone who has a life. You don't exist as a person. That appears to you. What you are is the awareness, the presence. You're not something. Life, you want to call life, meaning this world, body, mind events that appear to you. You don't need to do anything. You don't go out and change the weather every day. You don't say, okay, let me see, now it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's time for it to be night. Let me turn it to night. Okay? And then all your neighbors will be pissed at you because they still want to, play soccer in the field. And you turn off the sunlight.
Right.
No, you don't control the elements, the universe, as a person. You don't. The only, if in terms of controlling your mind or your world, your experience, as consciousness, you control all of it. You create all of it. You dream all of it, and you create all of it. You control all of it, if you want to use that term, as consciousness. You have to come to that understanding. But your understanding from your question is still that you're referring to I and me as Ananda. What is the Sanskrit meaning of Ananda?
It means bliss, which is identical to being and consciousness.
Good. So contemplate the meaning of your name.
Yes.
Contemplate the meaning of your name, because the meaning of your name, bliss and happiness, is borderless. It's not a personal. It's not a personal bliss. Bliss cannot be personal. If it's personal, it's not bliss. Bliss is there is no limit to bliss.
It's almost like my question comes from a kind of a cop-out, in a sense, where I'm saying, okay, I sort of get that, but the default is living a life.
No, you're only saying you get that because you're pointing to some understanding, but hasn't yet come to its full blooming.
Yeah,
it will bloom. Just continue to contemplate. Don't contemplate your life. Contemplate the self. Don't worry about your life. Contemplate the self. Contemplate. of course, live your life, when there is people you need to pick up at the train station, go pick them up. When it's time for you to go play or go to work, go do it. When it's time for you to cook a meal, cook the meal, of course. But do it, do it at that level. Don't use that level to define yourself. Don't define yourself as anything in that realm. Just do what needs to be done, water the plants, take the dog for a walk, if you have a wound, go see the doctor, feed yourself, if you're overweight, go on a diet, eat healthy food, do these things, but just at that level, without identification. It's possible. Right. It's possible, because you are the manager and the caretaker of the world, body, mind at that level. But don't define yourself in that realm. Remain undefined. Don't use the I except when you're referring to consciousness. Don't use the term my. I mean, okay, of course, no. I mean, in language you use it, but don't believe it. Because the way you said, you were asking is like you believed it. Don't use the word my car, my life, my but light, like my house, something like. But light.
I'll tell you an example. When I walk out of my apartment and I see a neighbor, they say, "How are you?" And I'll say, "Great, I'm great. I feel I'm wonderful." But I mean, I'm talking to them and I'm mixing it all up. I'm saying, here comes a body, I'm walking out the door, and I'm great, because that's what you are asking. Well,
yeah. I say, how are you? Yeah, I'm good. How are you? You can meet somebody with. First, it requires a certain sensitivity. Because sometimes you can sense that somebody just saying, "Hey, how are you?" and you say, "Hey, fine, how are you?" You can sense that they're not. But even then, you can say it like you mean it. Like, I'm fine. How are you? And it might be that you see, but you're not trying to do anything. You're just living this openness, this sincerity, but you're not trying to display it. You're not trying to display it. You're not trying to impress anybody, or you're not trying to, oh, I'm living this openness. No. But at the same time, you are living the openness. You see, but in a different way than this showy exuberance. You're living more in the sincerity, and in the questioning and in the exploration. And says, "Yeah, hi, how are you?" And it's like there is a real caring. How are you? How are you doing? And maybe you'd be surprised. I might tell you, "Damn, I'm having a really hard time today." You say, "But." You just say, "Well, that's just to be available." Oh, what's going on? If you have the time, if you're not in a hurry. And sometimes just to meet somebody and just be this listening space, not trying to cure them or help them. It's just being a listening space. And the listening, there is wisdom in listening. The listening is what talks, what listens and what talks. So you can be in a relationship from the listening and explore and share from the listening.
Oh, that makes me think of Isaac's question in and out of the brain. That's one level, and this is in and out of the whole play.
Yes.
Listening
the whole play is a listening space. And in this listening space, we're listening to God. Because everything is God, and everything we're listening to is the voice of God and the expression of God.
So listening is kind of an actual activity of the self, whereas any other activity is
it's not an activity of the self. It's the nature of the self.
I see distinction.
And the self speaks from listening, from the stillness.
So I have a specific, very specific kind of question. I had in my circle of friends, there's a popular therapist who was out hiking with his dog. He was shot several times by somebody who stole his car. Shot him on the hiking trail, took the keys, and took the car. This was just like yesterday or 2 days ago. And when I saw people mentioning on Facebook, "Oh, I'm so sorry, what a disaster," things like that, and I just said, maybe look at it another way. Is there such a thing as a disaster other than in your mind? And I really thought, am I going to lose a whole group of friends by even suggesting such a thing, that we look completely beyond the emotional perspective and reactivity?
Well, it's a tragic event, and
You have to say that, yes.
you have to be sensitive and to people when they are in their feelings and when they are in their stories, their emotions maybe, that or you don't touch it.
That, yes. Just let it be. Let it go by, maybe.
Yeah, I would say that I would not touch it, but somehow if you are touching it
Gently.
I wouldn't touch it. I wouldn't touch it.
That was my sense. I did anyway. I posted something anyway. It didn't seem to offend anyone. So
Okay. Everything is a learning experience. There is a potential for learning.
Right, right. I love the post you just put out recently that don't worry about the past. Even if the past was 5 minutes ago, just go to this.
Yes.
This, yeah.
Remain empty-handed. Yes. The way we define ourselves is through the past, through memory. Is the impression of time. And the impression of time always relates to me in time. Okay, Ananda.
Thanks.
Gonzalo, hola Gonzalo. Gonzalo writes, this control of consciousness refers to that the non-existent me cannot control anything. How could it be if it is non-existent? So in religious terms, it is only God's will. Control of consciousness refers to that the non-existent me that cannot control.
I think what I'm referring to is that before you were talking about if there is any control, it's only the consciousness that can control anything, right?
Yeah, the way I refer to control is that there is no personal control. If you want to use the term control, I rarely use the term, but sometimes I do.
Yes.
I refer to consciousness that controls everything.
Yeah.
Creates everything.
Okay. Because even that to talk in terms of control, it is not like it doesn't seem like it doesn't feel like real, because if everything appears in consciousness and we as consciousness perceives everything that appears, it's not that we are directing the show. It's not that we are deciding in this moment what to happen, in that moment what is going to happen. I mean, nature laws, for example, are there, and things happen in the world because of the laws of nature, and not because there is any will that it happens as it happens.
Yeah, I think you're right in that there is no personal will, and you could also say there is no divine will, but somehow it doesn't feel, it feels dry. It feels like, oh, everything is happening on its own. There are the laws of nature. They're happening of their own. And it doesn't somehow allude or express in any way the experience of the reality of consciousness. There is a quality to the knowingness of the self. And this quality has all in it, it has all the higher human qualities of love and tenderness and generosity and kindness and sweetness. The experience of the self has all of these qualities, and humility. There is a humility also, and an open-heartedness, and sort of a, 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 a sweet recognition of the wholeness, of the reality, of the oneness of consciousness. And so you can express it in many different ways, but when you express it as, well, in the phenomenal world there are phenomenal laws that apply, gravitational fields and electromagnetic fields, etc., it's missing something. And what it's missing is, like Francis alludes to, it's missing the perfume. It's missing the heart. It's missing the perfume of the self.
Well, totally, I agree with you in the sense that in the presence of our true nature, all these qualities come to the surface, let's say, and we live a totally different life that we live from the identification with a me story. That's
Right.
totally different.
Yes.
Just was talking in terms of like sometimes people could refer as that there is, I mean, like if consciousness is all there is, and everything is just perceived by consciousness, that there is nothing that to worry about, in the sense that why to worry about anything that is just out of our control?
That's that's true. That's true. Why worry about things that are out of your control? But yet, it's not enough for you to say. I mean, I'm talking in general.
Yes.
For someone to say, oh, well, why should I worry about things out of my control when you still haven't come to the peace and freedom and happiness in your experience? So you're sort of you're still unhappy. You still haven't realized you haven't come to the happiness, but you're saying, well, oh well, why should I worry about things? Because things are not out of my control. But in fact, you're still worrying, but you're trying to cover it up in a way by saying, oh, there is nothing in my control. Or, why should I worry about the laws of nature?
Right.
But so that's not that you really need to come face to face with your happiness and your unhappiness and your angst, and you have to explore that. And it's not sufficient to adopt a proposition like the one you just proposed, because it doesn't really heal.
Yeah, unless, I mean, this can become like a slogan, like, remember that slogan, like, don't worry, be happy, something like that.
Yes, but we are still very worried, and we're still unhappy, but we keep repeating, don't worry, be happy, don't worry, be happy, don't worry, be happy. But there is no way around the realization of your true nature. There is no way around it.
This can only become like real when this is the experience, the ever-present experience of every moment. Otherwise, it's just a motto, a slogan, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. But it's also important to, in your contemplation, even though we're not yet established, it doesn't matter, because we're living the love of truth, and we're living in the contemplation of truth. That's a very beautiful contemplation. So
at least we are in together into this loving the truth.
yes, yes, and it's only your love for truth that can guide you, that can bring to you the openness. You have to really go for it. You go for it with all you got, because this is vital opportunities that has been presented to you, because the non-dual teaching, the Advaitic teaching, has come to you, and it's like receiving a letter from God. I mean, just using the metaphor, it's like receiving an invitation from the king and the queen to the castle. You're in the village, you receive an invitation again from the king and the queen, and you put it in your drawer, and you go back to playing bridge. Okay, I mean, I'm just using the metaphor, yes? So
yeah, or maybe it was my letter to Santa Claus too. Asking for it.
Santa loves you. So yeah.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. Good to see you. Gonzalo. Okay, well, it's 7:30, so very lovely to be with all of you. Thank you for your lovely company and friendship. Much love. See you soon. See you next week. Okay.
Yeah.